Said that I could talk about Emily and Paul to accept they're nice and cozy. Hopefully they're not too cozy. It's warm in here. Oh, that's good. Time was with her. Yes, they're both coming home on Christmas Eve. Mariah flies in 3 in the afternoon.
So there's one more chair over here, and there's seats kind of scattered about in the middle. You want this one? Mike, nice to see you. Good. I'll get you up. I'm already halfway here. All right. There you go.
I don't know yours.
Well, it's better than some.
I'll find out. All right.
No, she won't.
So, hey, you?
Yeah.
All set? Okay, great. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for Monday, December 8th. It's 6:02 p.m. We're here in the Village Hall boardroom. If everyone will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning. Thank you all for coming this evening. Really glad to see so many people here. All right, so Trustee Mishler, would you take care of the land acknowledgement, please?
Before we begin this evening, we would like to recognize the Seneca Nation on whose ancestral territory we are gathering. The present-day Village of Fairport sits on traditional Seneca land. The Seneca Nation, with the Mohawk, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, and Tuscarora, make up the sovereign Haudenosaunee Confederacy. With respect, we acknowledge the people of the Seneca Nation on whose land we now live. We honor their past, present, and future contributions to and stewardship of this land.
Thank you. Megan, would you take roll call, please?
Trustee Bonaski? Trustee Rega?
Here.
Trustee Mishler?
Here.
Trustee Briggs?
Here.
Mayor Domeretz?
Here.
And our student advisor, Xander.
Here.
Great. Okay. So for anybody who's looked at the agenda, I'm just going to clarify a couple things that we just moved around. We'll start with the audit presentation with BST coming in from Brendan. I guess you're in Albany, right? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, we're going to start with that. After that, we will hold Citizens Forum. After Citizens Forum, we have Superintendent Matt Haggerty from Fairport Municipal, who's going to be here giving us an update on the power situation from Friday. After that, we will call for the public hearing for the zoning code. And then we will move on to the regular parts of the agenda with the unfinished business, new business, and the rest of the agenda. But just that little beginning part got switched around. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Brendan from BST. Brendan, I apologize for not saying your last name because it's escaping me right now.
It's all right. We're Kennedys, but we're not politicians like you folks. We stay out of the. So I just requested the ability to share so I can walk you through my presentation. Oh, there we go, and we got it. So So I got a slide that's very similar to what we've gone through last year. We do have some extra work we did this year because of some federal and state grants. But we'll talk about the scope of services here. Hopefully everyone can see this okay. When we look at the financial statements of the village, there's actually 8 opinion units. Some are a bit redundant, but there's 8 different things we're going through when we look at it. So it's a really segregated audit down to a much more granular level at the fund level. You can see here that we're auditing. And so there's actually 8 opinions included in the financial statement audit. This is consistent with the prior year. The general fund, sewer, capital projects, electric, these are major funds, and then some other aggregated activities here. We also issue a report on internal controls and compliance. That's a gas report on the government auditing standards. You guys were lucky this year. You spent about $761,000 in federal funds. So that triggered the need for a federal single audit. And you also spent over, I think it was close to $800,000 in state DOT grant funds. And so while we were doing the financial statement audit, we did a couple of mini audits here as well. And we'll talk a little bit about what those entailed later on in the presentation. So a little extra work this year in addition to the financial statement audit. We have to do some compliance control work over these grants that we determined to be major, and we'll talk about those results. So for each of those 8 opinions, we have an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion is also known as a clean opinion. It means that we did not identify any material discrepancies. Everything was presented as proper. It's the opinion you would want if you could ask for one, but it's the opinion you earn for each of those opinion units. Financial reporting deficiencies. So if we were to identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we would of course report those to you. From a federal grant perspective, I mentioned that extra audit we had to do. There was only one major program, and that was your highway planning and construction. And we'll talk a little bit later about what went into that audit. But we did not identify any material non-compliance or internal control matters. So with a financial statement audit, we're trying to validate the financial information you presented to us. With the grant audit, we're trying to verify that you complied in all material respects with the rules and regulations of those grant awards. Similarly, we have the same results for the state DOT program. The program that was determined to be major is your CHIPS program, the Consolidated Local Street and Highway. We went through all the compliance matters that you would in an audit such as that and did not identify anything that would be reported as a finding. So clean opinions across the board. From a financial statement audit, this should look fairly similar to past periods. We do, I'd have to look up exactly what we did. We do introduce elements of unpredictability every year so that we're not doing exactly the same thing. We obviously go through a significant number of cash disbursements and receipts to make sure things were, your T's were crossed and your I's were dotted. Payroll, we consider new accounting standards, although there were none. And then obviously these significant estimates, 2 of which are actuarial in nature, are considered, and then a few other estimates that we have listed here below. Very similar, again, all the results speak for themselves. We were provided ample audit evidence and documentation. We consider tangible bias when evaluating estimates, and nothing came to our attention that required any corrections or any issues that we report here today.
Brendan, can you hear me?
If you were to flip through the financials are quite a long document, and just to understand what's in the financial statements, really the only thing that BSD produces are those pages on 1 through 3. That's the auditor's report. And if you were to flip to those pages, you don't have to right now, but if you were, you would see that we express an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on those on the financial statements, the entire 66-page document. The next section is your MD&A. You've heard me joke, I call it the Cliff Notes. So if you couldn't read the whole financial statements and you wanted to read pages 4 through 12, I don't even know if Cliff Notes still exist anymore, but I sure had them back in 1997. But the MD&A would be your Cliff Notes. It's a summarized financial data. It gives you a good overview of what transpired during the year. And then what you see behind that are really the guts of the financial statements. It's the detail. It's all the different income statements and balance sheets. And then behind that is the notes that that back up all of those transactions. So the financial statements are largely organized in the same manner, so you have a good degree of comparability if you wanted to compare reports and trend financial data. So,
Brendan, this is Julie. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Are we supposed to be seeing slides? Because we see your title slide and then we don't see anything else.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, it's up on my computer. I'm sorry. You're just seeing the first.
We just see the title slide and then we can see the thumbnails along the left-hand side there.
All right, we'll try something here.
And Brendan, if you have any way to increase the volume at your end on your computer, that will help us here as well.
Let's see what I can do.
I see you're on a page that starts with organization of the financial statements right now.
All right, we'll just go from here. So here was the scope of services, just to recap. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And can you try and increase the volume on your computer?
I don't know how to do that. Well, how about I try and talk louder?
Okay, that works too.
Turn up the
All
volume.
right, so sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Just
There you go. We got you louder.
slides. What's that?
We have you louder now.
Okay, perfect. So we're talking about the financials. This is where I was. A few financial statement observations, and I'll send these slides over to Megan so that you guys can all have a copy. Just a few quick financial statement observations, and then we'll talk about the single audits and get you guys back on your program. Full financial wide, one of the things I like to look at when I'm analyzing governments is this section right here. You guys invested about $3.6 million into your infrastructure, into your equipment, into your long-term assets, and that's offset by about $1.7 million. I've always thought that the Village of Fairport does a really nice job with budgeting for these projects, having the financing lined up, having the grants lined up, and it really has contributed to your overall infrastructure and condition of your village. So you had a surplus when you look at the government-wide level on a full accrual basis. That's just the same way that a business would account for things. You pay down a little bit of debt, and like every other municipality, we've talked about this in the past. You have what's known as OPEB and pension, and those are pretty significant costs on your balance sheet. And right now, there's really no way to fund OPEB. Just like in years past, there's always talk about allowing municipalities to fund it, but nothing right now that you can do about that. The funds continue to perform very well. Again, some stats that we look at is unrestricted as a percentage of total expenditures. Expenditures have crept up because of a lot of capital outlays. And so while this total has trended down a little bit, you have a significant amount of reserves as well. So the village really has done a nice job of positioning itself for uncertain events if they were to pop up, and having money on hand for those capital projects that are ongoing. So a very good job of managing those ratios and keeping the village on good financial footing. As mentioned, the expenditures increased primarily because of capital outlays. You got a bunch of projects you were working on, a bunch of equipment you acquired. Your Main Street case was still in progress at the end of 2025. But again, everything was reconciled and properly supported from our perspective. The electric fund did well. I left this last bullet point in. We presented on this last year, but you know, one of the things that the village had done was a rate study, submitted that, and so that revenue is now coming in, and you know, so we did generate a surplus from operating income of about $832,000, and then when you factored in this part, when you factor in the total revenues, you had a surplus of about $1.5 million, largely due to some other revenues that were recorded. So, financially speaking, everything went quite well. From a federal single audit perspective, this was the program we audited, and this snip is right out of the federal compliance supplement, and you can see it basically is a very scripted audit is the way I look at it. It kind of explains exactly what you need to do. And so these A and B, activities allowed, unallowed, that's basically making sure you spent the money on proper, on what was permissible. In some instances, and I believe this was the case, there was a match. And so making sure that you match the appropriate amount. Did you follow the procurement suspension and debarment rules? Yes. So we're testing requirements when it comes to the federal single audit, not necessarily the financial attributes. And so all those are laid out in this compliance supplement. And again, we had no compliance findings as it relates to your federal program. So a clean opinion there. Similarly, whenever you spend $750,000 in federal awards, if you spend $750,000 in state DOT awards, you trigger another audit, and you were lucky enough to do that. And so the program was CHIPS. The program and audit requirements are all laid out in this local projects manual published by the State Transportation Authority. And so that's the basis for conducting the audit over the DOT funds. Again, we sampled some disbursements, made sure that they were adequately supported, they complied with the project requirements, that the bids were done properly, and again, no non-compliance matters that we would report to you as part of the audit. Last two slides are just some communications. There is a separate letter, but similar to past years, we really do enjoy working with Fairport. I came out myself this year. Due to some changing in staffing, I came out with one of our new senior associates, and so we came out and we did really well in the field. Anything we requested was provided to us. You know, the accounting policies are appropriate in the context of U.S. GAAP and reporting. Nothing odd came to our attention, no unusual transactions, no odd documentation. Accounting estimates were adequately supported. Nothing material from an error perspective. The village of Fairport, between Megan, Cook, and Holly combined, you have one of the better accounting departments in our portfolio of clients for sure. And we have over 100 municipal clients, so you do have a really good crew out there. Makes the audit process pretty smooth. No compliance matters as noted, no difficulties encountered, and so these presentations tend to be pretty straightforward for me because there's really not too much to tell. Of course, if there's any detailed questions you might have or any areas you're interested in, we could of course answer those questions for you, but those were my prepared remarks.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions for Brendan at this time? Okay. Brendan, thank you very much for telecommuting today.
Not a problem.
And
Not a problem. We were out there in August.
I saw you. I saw your team here. And thank you for a clear explanation of what your team did with regard to audits to FMC and with FMC and with also with the village as well. We're glad to have you here to check up on this.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. So, without any further questions, I'll let you guys get back to your meeting. But as I always tell the mayor and the board, you folks are welcome to reach out to me whenever you want. I know we have these meetings once a year, but if there's anything that comes to your attention during the year, any questions you might have about the audit approach or the work we're doing or what's going on, we're always happy to speak with you folks. So just let us know.
Hey Brendan, just a quick comment, and I think this is just probably a policy, but when you always email us letting us know that you're going to be here ahead of time, it's always helpful, so that if we have questions beforehand,
Sure.
We have that opportunity as well, so we appreciate that.
Of course.
I think that's it. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Megan or Brian, do you have anything else on this? Okay. Thanks. Have a great evening, and again, thank you for joining us live during this meeting.
Our pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Bye now.
Thank you. Are we going to just shut the, okay. Are we going to put the agenda up or just leave it off? Okay, that's fine. All right, so that will take us to, by the way, thanks for setting this up this evening. It's greatly appreciated by the board to have Brendan give this presentation live. The next item on the agenda is going to be Citizens Forum. So if there was, hopefully we already got that straight, if there was anybody who wanted to comment during Citizens Forum, that you signed in on the Citizens Forum sheet versus the public hearing sheet. And at 6:22, I'm going to open Citizens Forum. There was nobody who wanted to sign up for Citizens Forum? Okay. Then we will close Citizens Forum at 6:23 and move on to the presentation by Superintendent Matt Hegarty from Fairport Municipal Commission. Thank you for being here tonight, Matt. I asked Matt because I was at the Fairport Municipal Commission meeting this morning if he would come and give the same information that he gave to the commissioners to the village board to give a little background on what happened on Friday morning with FMC and with the power situation. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. So, good evening. Just a few things. I want to go over a few facts. So, let's talk about the power outage of Friday morning, December 5th. The outage affected all 17,997 Fairport customers. That is every customer that we have. Yes, it was 8 degrees outside. Started at 6:18 a.m. I can tell you exactly where I was. I was on Main Street looking at the Christmas lights when all the lights went out. We had 60% of our customers restored at 7:26 a.m. All customers were restored at 8:46 a.m. And there's a lot that goes into that. So let's start with Fairport does not generate any electricity. We purchase the power from New York State. We get it from New York Power Authority, which is our hydro. And then we buy it from other agencies to fill in that supplemental when we go above our hydro to meet the hourly demands of the system. National Grid owns the transmission lines. You see these through Fairport. These are the steel towers. These are the large conductors. This is what gets the power from Niagara Falls, from other generating stations across the state, and to Fairport. So National Grid owns those lines. They maintain those lines. National Grid had a failure on the lines that serves Fairport. So unfortunately, when National Grid has an outage, it does affect all of us here in Fairport. This was only the second time in the 36 years I've been here that Fairport was completely in the dark. The last time was 1998 in the Labor Day windstorm, where we were out for 2 days completely in the dark. This time it was a little more than 2 hours. So one of the big things that we talk about is it's 8 degrees. we all know we all have a lot of electric heat. Electric heat is a big problem to restore power, especially in this magnitude. When we have all of our customers out of power, electric heat, when we turn them back on, it all comes on at once. And no system is designed for that. So it has to be done in stages. We were able to get 60% of our system up. Most of that 60% was homes with gas heat, very limited electric heat. We had to stage the electrically heated homes in. We kind of had rolling blackouts as we brought people back online. One of the things we just need to remember is we lose diversity and we go towards electrification. This could get worse. So I want to truly credit my team that worked behind me. This is an amazing job by this team. They knew exactly what to do. They know where to go. And we took care of the issue. That happens very rarely. So without the expertise of that team, this could have been a much longer duration outage. So to restore 18,000 customers in a little over 2 hours is truly the credit of the people that work at Fairport Electric. So, questions?
Can you talk, this morning you talked a little bit about the need to have folks staged at the different substations because of that surge that would happen if you just said, okay, let's just put everybody on. Can you talk just briefly about that?
Yeah, we monitor our substations through a system called SCADA. When everything goes down, this is also the ideal time for IT to have failures also. So we had zero communication between our substations, so it was truly the people inside the fences giving me the information so I could make good decisions. These are qualified guys, employees. Some have been here a very little time, but smart individuals. We've taught them well. They're able to give me good information. We can make good decisions to try to restore power. Our biggest focus is to restore power quickly, but also has to be done reliably. If we don't do it reliably, it could cascade and go the other way, and it could be a much longer duration. In the past, we have actually had subdivisions that one subdivision was about 150 houses, took us 26 hours to restore. Because when it's that cold and all this electric heat tries to come on at once, it literally has to be done in pieces. So having the right people inside communicating back with us was really, really important on Friday morning.
When you have stressors to the system like that, do you have a debrief afterwards to go, we did this well, we need to improve on this, we need to improve on this, we did well, will something like that happen? And
we actually had that Friday afternoon. Once we all took a deep breath, we continued to have them this week. One of the things we practice on an annual basis is an incident response plan, and this one worked really well. I was able to reach out immediately to Manager White. He was able to get press releases out so we could get information out. We could start our Everbridge notification to our customers so that people in operations could truly work on operations. Those are tasks that are kind of assigned ahead of time. We do practice them. There's always things that we can improve on. And we'll improve, each time we'll improve on this one also. We do have staff we have some staff that are out at this time for various reasons. We're a small staff. We have to remember that. We all wear a lot of hats. So when those people are missing, those are voids that can be filled in by somebody else. But everyone stepped in and they did a good job. But yes, we do multiple debriefs. We'll continue to do them over the course and try to be better prepared for the next one when it happens.
yeah, tomorrow morning there'll be a debrief.
Correct.
Can you just speak to something that I think the community hasn't quite gotten from an education perspective of what smart meters mean to FMC in terms of if your power goes off, that what happens with the smart meter?
And I want to caution the term smart meter. So
correct. However you want to describe it.
So smart meters are meters that customers can log in and get all the information back out. And we don't have those meters yet. We'll offer them in the future for people that do want that. The meters we have are a different meter reading system that we had now, but one of the capabilities this system does have, that tells us when people are out of power. We started this about a year ago. The system's been in place for a little over 12 months. And we did see problems with that system also with this. It works very well in small events. This large event, we found some anomalies that we have to fix, and we will. But yes, so this meter will tell us when the customer's out of power. And one of the things that people didn't realize before is we had no idea when people had power or not until they called us. You know, and then we could start to piece these together where if 3 people called on the street, we'd say, okay, the street's out. You know, we had no way of knowing. If we lose large portions of the system, we see that at the substation. But individual streets, individual customers, we didn't know until they called. And now we see those things, we can react quicker and more efficient.
Can, with the way the system is set up, because I know you've gone through a whole bunch of programs where you get reporting back from out in the field, can you tell when street lights go out?
We, on Main Street, as part of the new streetscape, we actually can. We actually have a system in place along Main Street that we can dim the street lights. We can dim them individually. We can tell when they go out. Is it a perfect system? No, but we're learning how that operates, also making improvements. Can we incorporate that through the village? Yes and no. I mean, there'll be places where there's communication problems, but we hope to, at least incorporate that through most of the village, so we can know when they're out, when they don't go out, when they stay lit all day long, etc.
I have one last question and then I'll open it up to the board. These are all things that I heard this morning and I'm like, I really want to make sure that we touch on some of this stuff. So is there a live 24/7 phone line at Fairport Municipal? So if a street light goes out versus maybe if you lose power at your house, that you could call there and say, hey, there's a problem, or there's a tree that just went down on a line.
Yes, we have a real live person working 24/7 at the operations center to answer your phone call. With that being said, when we have large outages, we have 13 incoming lines. We can only answer so many at a time. Friday morning, we had 13 people answering the phone. So when the 14th person calls, they do get a busy signal. This is where social media and our Everbridge system, our notification system is so important. We can put out the notifications, say we're aware of the outage. We do have messages, when they do get in, it says we're experiencing high call volumes. But yes, there is a person there 24/7 to answer your phone, to deal with not just electric, they deal with Fairport DPW. So for snow plowing and other questions like that. Along with animal control, if people need that.
I get that. I'm going to start over here. Did you have anything?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to say thank you because I had a high schooler that was getting on the bus while this, or maybe getting on the bus during this time, so I appreciate how quickly all the decisions were made about the school and being able to get the kids safely back on the buses and home and where they could be warm, or to just tell the kids to stay home. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Communication is key. And
Yeah.
we have great communication with the town parent, we have great communication with the school district, and all of these things are happening behind the scenes constantly. They happen long before these events happen, so it's just easy to happen during these events.
Emily, did you have anything?
Did we hear from National Grid what the initial cause of the problem was?
They have a conductor down. That was what they found. They took them all day long to put it back up. What caused it, I don't know. Just their system, but yes, they had a conductor down.
And then I think obviously the review of an event like this is super important to learn from. These experiences are only good if we walk away being better,
Correct.
right? Just a thought, and this never occurred to me because this doesn't happen very often, but our traffic lights. So if people were on the roads driving, our traffic lights had no power.
Mm-hmm.
So how traffic signals work? The village only owns 3. So we own the Village Landing. We own the one at Potter Church and Parker Street Bridge. The rest are owned by the county or the state. The state does have generator hookups. So if we were back into an ice storm or a long duration event, they actually have methods to put generators at the traffic lights. But we could have a small interruption of power, maybe affecting just Church Street and just that traffic signal. People need to remember, as we're all taught at 16 years old, it's a 4-way stop. People do forget. Yeah.
Thank you to you and your team.
Thank you.
Tracy, did you have anything?
Nothing new to add, but thank you. And we appreciate your team and how they responded so quickly. When you look at it into the bigger perspective, second outage in 25 years, and it went from 20 hours to.
So, thank you. I do have a great team.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
See you.
Have a good night, Matt. Thank you.
Okay.
From there, we will move to the public hearing for, this is not a public hearing for local law number 3. This is just a public hearing for the zoning code.
No, it is a public hearing for local law number 3 is just the code
Okay, so, but we will have another public hearing.
for local law number 4.
Okay.
Do you want me to explain it too?
Yeah, why don't you do that, please, John?
So, procedurally, so as the board is aware, and I'm sure many of the members of the public are aware, so for the duration of this year, we've been working on the zoning code update. So once that law was deemed to effectively be in final form for final review, that law was converted, or that update was converted into a local law, which is the mechanism to redo our zoning code. So that's local law number 3. If you see local law number 3, it's effectively attaching the entire zoning code update as an exhibit. So that, under municipal home rule law, that has to go through a public hearing process, and so that is what is before the community tonight, which is local law number 3 of 2025. Local law number 4 of 2025 is to modify and repeal any provisions that are inconsistent with local law number 3. So if this board were to adopt local law number 3, we have to go in and clean up sort of the other chapters that are being updated and replaced. And so that's sort of a more of a kind of procedural cleanup law. If the board were not to pass local law number 3, then local law number 4 becomes unnecessary. So that's why they were separated out in the way they were. So first step is the zoning code. Second step for the next meeting would be the cleanup of the other chapters.
So, just to clarify, local law number 3, we don't have it on our agenda to vote on it tonight.
That is correct. It is just a public hearing.
Is it incorporated or a separate step that we would see when we have local law number 4 in front of us?
Yes, so if the board were to wish to proceed after tonight, and for example, if we were to close the public hearing and move forward with that process, then a resolution to adopt local law number 3 would be placed on the next agenda for the village board to consider the adoption of that law.
Okay, and then we would also be opening up local law number 4 at the next meeting with a public hearing, and the seeker would happen for local law number 3 at the next meeting.
Yes.
Is there a separate seeker for local law number 4?
The seeker will cover both laws.
Okay.
So it's a unified approach. We do one environmental review, and then the actions that happen as a result of that can occur one after the other if that is the desire of this board.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Because I just wanted to clarify that before we got into this.
John, local law number 4, you said is to clean up any revisions that were made to the local law number 3.
So, for example, we have a standalone chapter that deals with swimming pools, and the new zoning code will actually be regulating in the area of swimming pools. And so we have to make sure that our existing code is consistent with the new zoning code. So there's other chapters that are around the zoning code, which I think, Jill, is what, 551? Is that the new chapter? So we have other chapters within the town code, or the village code, excuse me, itself, that are regulating in areas that the new zoning code is also updating. So we just have to go back and clean up certain other chapters. I think swimming pools is one, and the other's escaping me. Vehicles, outside parking of outside vehicles, there's a chapter that deals with that as well. That's also being regulated now in the new zoning code. So Jill and Mark had gone through each of those chapters and given me a comprehensive list of changes that needed to be made in those other chapters to make sure it conforms to the new zoning code. So that's what local law number 4 is designed to accomplish.
Trustee Briggs, do you have any questions?
Nope, clear like mud. It'll come to me then.
Okay. Think of it as, let's say, inside the code itself, not the zoning code, but the code itself. There was a chapter about parking, how wide your driveway can be. Let's say it was separate. In this case, it was swimming pools. It's now incorporated into the new zoning code, So local law number 3 is the adoption of that. Local law number 4 is going back and saying, okay, you have these separate chapters inside of the entire village code. Since you took swimming pools and put it inside of the zoning code, it no longer needs to be a separate chapter. This will clean up those chapters that existed outside of the code previously. Okay, with that said,
I'll say one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
That second local law is not designed to make any changes that are not already contemplated in the zoning code update. So we're not changing the zoning code by virtue of a law that comes immediately after that. What you're adopting in local law number 3 is effective, is the zoning code. So you should look at it as, are you comfortable with that local law? If the answer is yes, the second law is really just ministerially making sure that nothing is in conflict with what you just adopted.
Okay. So before we open the public hearing, I just want to go through a couple of the ground rules that we have for guidelines on public comment. Speakers will be recognized by the presiding officer, that's me. Speakers must step to the front of the room and state their name and address. Speakers should limit their remarks to 5 minutes or less. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor or the presiding officer, interrupt a speaker during their remarks, but only for the purpose of clarification of the specific information that they're talking about. We won't be answering any questions. This is just for you to share remarks about the zoning code. And speakers must observe, and audience members must observe commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, good taste, and if we have folks who are interrupting people who are speaking or acting out, I'll ask you to leave. So please keep control of your comments in the group. And with that, at 6:41, I will open the public hearing. I have some written remarks that I'll share after we have our live speakers. And Megan, you have the list over there. Would you like to invite someone to come up and speak, please?
The first name we have is James Herendeen, 55 Miles Ave.
Good evening.
Thank you for this opportunity to meet with you tonight. On the way here, I noticed how beautiful, extra beautiful Fairport looks at this time of year. I'd like to give a special shout out to the Public Works Department for their hard work in picking up all the leaves and putting up all that holiday decor in the bitter cold weather. I truly enjoy seeing the lights throughout the village. I recently looked at the Visit Us section of the village website. I love the description of Fairport and the vision it presents. It talks about past visitors on the Erie Canal that deem this destination a Fairport. It then brings us up to our current residents who dwell in porch-friendly Victorian homes on tree-lined streets in quiet neighborhoods. Traveling through the village and crossing the lift bridge, I see successful businesses. To my left, I see Jeff and Haley's place. To my right, I see Damien's place. Just over the tracks, I see Tommy's place. I use the first names to make it a little more personal because it's these owners and their patrons working together with village officials that have made these places successful. That vision would become diminished if the village would proceed with the idea of permitting construction of 4-story buildings. The allure of Fairport would not be the same if the size of some buildings blocked the view of these businesses, the trees, or the canal. Other places wish they look like Fairport. I don't support that we look like other places. I mentioned that people dwell in porch-friendly Victorian homes on tree-lined streets and quiet neighborhoods. When the word dwell gets changed to the word dwellings, it becomes cause for concern. The idea that these once quiet neighborhoods may be allowed to construct dwellings that house temporary renters seems contrary to the quality of life that currently exists. Heaven forbid that we have to call upon our guardian angel Clarence to maintain our wonderful life so that a beautiful street like Potter Place does not become Pottersville. Yearly, my neighbors have been featured on doors of Fairport and porches of Fairport, where the picturesque fronts of houses are photographed for a poster. These kinds of tributes complement the homeowners' efforts being made that keep Fairport beautiful. As I look down the street, I can see those porch-friendly houses with their prideful owners. Now picture that image where an RV is kept in the driveway blocking that view. How much of a destination would Fairport become if the Visit Us section of Fairport was edited to include visions of RVs, dwellings, and 4-story buildings? These proposals become easier to turn down if they were made while enjoying a walk on the canal or a view from your front porch. On my return home tonight, I will continue to admire the beauty of Fairport, a place where the vision has not been diminished, a place where the treetops glisten and quiet neighborhoods become silent nights, and the holiday decor enhances those Victorian homes. When it comes time to decide the path to see the best vision of Fairport, I hope you choose the road that allows you to see the lights.
Thank you very much. Okay, who's next, Megan?
Gabriel McNaughton, 20 South Ave.
Not quite as long. Gabriel McNaughton, 20 South Ave. Give me a moment to pull up my notes, please. I'm here tonight as a resident of Fairport, and I want to speak in support of adopting the zoning code. I think it's a good thing. I think we need to redevelop and grow responsibly moving forward. That said, I'm concerned about the seeker review that is before you tonight and what is in the record so far. And there's a couple of things, and you'll see it in the handout. My first letter here is my letter, and I'd like that to go on the record. I'll email this tonight as well. But if you move on to the next page, you'll see this is the signature page of the seeker, or the EAF, the environmental assessment form that is in the record tonight for public comment. It is signed and dated July 28th, 2025, which is a number of months before tonight. What that means is that we've got stale data in the record in front of you. When you move on to the next handout, you'll see my next one. I'm sure you all know this by now, but seeker does require 3 primary things when you have a type 1 action in front of you, which is what the zoning code update is. The first is that you take an assessment of any adverse environmental impacts in front of you. The second is that you take a hard look at those environmental impacts. And the third is that you have a reasoned elaboration of whether those impacts are actual or not applicable. Right? You've proposed a negative declaration in the EAF based on information on an outdated form. But your second handout here is an EAF mapper that I printed today from the DEC website. And as you can see, there are a number of questions, answers that are in this EAF mapper that have been marked no on the previous, or left blank on the previous EAF. But the state is saying you have these exposures here in the village. That alone, if you go forward with a negative declaration based on this information, is factually inaccurate and could open the village up to liability. Moving on to the next, the last piece of the handout here, and I'll keep this short. You have, well, let me go back to the previous one. If you look at the EAF mapper, because we have the public here as well, there's a number of exposures here when you think about what actually is in the village. We have a large number of historical, or at least locations that are eligible for the historical register. We have Thomas Creek, which is an impaired creek. According to the DEC, we have wetlands, the Thomas Creek wetlands. We also have hazardous waste sites, and we have an aquifer underneath us as well. What Seeker allows you to do is take a look at each of those exposures, each of those potential impacts. Decide whether they are significant, which arguably the state's already kind of saying they are. Create the mitigation measures. Understand how the new zoning code will impact those exposures going forward. And then create a reasoned elaboration, your justification for adopting the zoning code. Now, the only way to do that, given this information, is by completing a generic environmental impact statement. If you go forward with a negative declaration on local law number 3, my fear is that you will have thrown away the hard work of Jill and the working group, because you will be opening the village and the project up to liability in the future. And if it is adopted and we have development moving forward on a negative declaration that is found to be factually inaccurate, the remedy, and as far as the court is concerned, is annulment of that zoning code, which would result in, it would set any development back. You'd have to do a whole lot of more work in the future, in the future. So the letter that I've shared with you has a lot of detail in it. I hope you take the time to review it. I've got 3 asks. Number 1 is to keep the record open. I don't think that this board is prepared or has the accurate record in front of it to adopt local law number 3, rather to make a negative declaration with regard to local law number 3. Number 2 is to find a positive declaration, because that is how the state has seen this, and that is the responsible thing to do to enable development going forward. The third ask is to complete that generic environmental impact statement. That GEIS is designed for acts and laws such as this zoning code. So with that, you can read the letter in the record. It's got citation in it. You can look through that. Take a look at the EIF mapper. And at a minimum, the record does need to be updated before you make any declaration.
It was DIR, or DRI.
DRI, yeah. I can go there if you like.
Well, no, it's not part of this hearing. I just,
Yeah, so
I was
a lot
trying
of
to understand what that had to do with what we
Yeah.
were talking about, that's all.
I appreciate that. So in the overview of the zoning code adoption, right, the finding of no adverse environmental impact is frequently justified by a statement that there is not foreseeable development, that this is just a zoning code update and there is no foreseeable development. Simultaneously, in October, OSID shared that list, the third handout here, of potential projects for public comment for the DRI grant application. And so the connection here is that you, as a board, then on November 4th adopted or supported that grant application. And what that does is it makes the zoning code basically prerequisite to further development. And so that comment, that argument that future development is not foreseeable, it just isn't true, because we do see a lot of development in our future. We do have that within the comprehensive plan. And at the same time that the village is going to the state to say, we have these projects in hand, we have these projects that we'd like to move forward with, here at least in the record, is stating that there's no development coming. And so it's a juxtaposition that just doesn't square.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely have our attorney take a look at that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Megan, who's next?
Joe Thon, 11 West Street.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the name again?
Joe Thon, 11 West.
Great.
It's a long O, Thone.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. Everybody does. Been growing with it my whole life. Thank you, board. My name is Joe Thone. I'm at 11 West Street. My comments are not as detailed and technical as those, so hard to follow suit with that one. But mine are more concerned about the impacts of what the zoning code will actually do to the village. I would just want to highlight some data from the State Comptroller's 2025 report on ADU projects. There has been a 1% to 2% annual uptake in villages like ours without strong caps. The village has roughly 1,800, give or take, single-family homes, and if that were to be passed, about 18 or 36 per year, give or take, would be added, in theory, to the village. The State Comptroller also notes that it's usually on the higher end when there's no owner occupancy rules or size limits. Even with the 650 square foot proposal in the code, there's a lack of owner occupancy, which would drive the rate higher, closer to 2% or 30 to 36 ADUs being built. The HUD backs it. 80% of ADU conversions become long-term rentals, driven by investors chasing cash flow. Essentially, in 5 years, 144 of the 180 ADUs built in the village could potentially operate as like a long-term rental, which isn't a bad thing, but I just want you guys to understand that's where the growth is going to go. It's going to go to investors building rentals on their own home that they buy, because there's no owner occupancy restriction. That is not density for locals, it's gentrification in reverse. It's displacing the missing middle class that the comprehensive plan intends to help. Worse off, those ADUs fuel short-term rentals. Of those 144 units, New York State studies show that 25% of the 444 will convert to Airbnbs within 2 years. Our charm draws tourists, commodifying West Street or canal paths into investor playgrounds kills it. Pending short-term rental regulations in Article 5 are a start, but without residential bans, they're meaningless. We need to cap short-term rentals village-wide at 1% to 2% or 25 to 50 units with strict annual permits, noise fines, and parking enforcement. This all ties to the village DRI push, which I support, especially the blue-collar housing project, but without safeguards, it's more of the same story. We need to require family mandates for family-sized units of 2 to 3 bedrooms with priority for housing holds with kids. We do not want to let developers get away with building family units that are studio or 1 bedrooms, as they've done in the past. This ensures we keep young families here and not just investors with micro units. I'm speaking to urge you to reject or heavily amend Articles 4 and 13 of this draft code. On paper, blanket ADU approvals and density bonuses promise missing middle houses and attainable options. Unfortunately, in reality, there are supercharged investor conversions, accelerate gentrification, and undermine the very affordability and character that the comprehensive plan is intending to provide. Please consider delaying this vote. Amend it for residents first. Fairport deserves better, and our families deserve better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna, again, ask you not to respond, please. Thank you. Okay, what do we have next, Megan?
Jan Williams, 205 Packets Glen.
Hi, I'm Jan Williams, 205 Packett's Glen, and I'm here to speak up in favor of ADUs and multifamily homes. And I'll start by saying that I don't believe the village board intends to change the character of Fairport by updating the zoning code as some residents believe. I do wish, however, that the update went even further to allow ADUs in more neighborhoods. The zoning code update provides guidelines around those types of housing to make sure they fit in with the neighborhoods while providing options in the local housing market. I've lived in some form of multifamily housing for most of my adult life as a renter, from college dorms to high-rise apartments to townhouses, some of which housed hundreds of very nice people just like me. In one building I lived across the hall from Santa Claus. You could hear him coming home from a gig this time of the year because he was wearing jingle bells. I believe that single-family homes should never be the only option in any neighborhood, and there are many reasons that people prefer to be a renter instead of a homeowner, or to live in multifamily buildings instead of a single-family home, from financial to personal preference to lifestyle. My preference has always been to live in a multifamily building, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who's glad that type of housing is available here in Fairport and would like to see more of it available. My neighborhood on West Ave includes many renters and multifamily homes. A lot of the big homes that you see are they're divided into multifamily homes. And it's a beautiful, quiet, friendly place with people walking their dogs all the time. It's beautiful. So more multifamily homes are not necessarily negative with more renters. Thanks.
Thank you, Jane.
Natasha Besh-Turner.
Welcome, Natasha.
When does public speaking get easier? I don't know yet.
Just imagine that you're just having a conversation with one of us, and there's nobody else in the room.
Natasha Besh-Turner, 94 Halbert Avenue. At new reading stage. Okay. Dear members of the Fairport Village Board, as always, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I understand the revised zoning code hasn't been approved yet. Thank you for that explanation of the process. I didn't quite understand the agenda, so I appreciate that explanation. And I think we all need to acknowledge that too much time and effort and money has gone into this revision, and that there's really no appetite for big change anymore. And so I urge all of you to approve this zoning code change so that we can get on with the important work of fixing it and minimizing negative impacts. The code as proposed reflects the anxiety of the people in this community, a fear that if things are good now, that change has to be worse. The proposed zoning code does a great job of trying to stop change from coming to Fairport, but change is here. In recent decades and years, Fairport has become whiter and older and less welcoming to our working class neighbors, the very people who built Fairport, who are often featured in those old-timey photos I see in the Fairport Historical Society pages. Our declining school enrollment reflects that, and this code keeps us on that path. So just pass this restrictive code so we can start fixing it. Buying a house in Fairport isn't necessarily even a smart financial choice, and the proposed zoning makes it even more difficult for most people's biggest investment to ever be profitable. You can't rent a portion of your house. You're limited in the type and size of businesses allowed, if you're even allowed to have a home-based business at all, and you can't even sell electricity from rooftop solar back to FMC. Even a savings account kicks off interest, but a house here is so limited by the zoning and the proposed zoning that it will likely never even cover your property taxes. And yet one of the best ways to ease the property tax burden on residents, to expand our commercial base and share the fixed costs of running a village across more people, is incredibly limited by the proposed zoning. So just pass it so we can start fixing it. We need to envision a Main Street that's bustling and safe and cozy. This zoning code makes it so hard to get there. There's nothing cozy about a single-story strip mall with a giant parking lot out front. That's obvious. When the stores are closed, the life is gone. But there is something inherently cozy about being surrounded by life. Adding height, especially apartments with balconies will bring more life to Main Street. Sidewalks feel safe when they're not abandoned, but busy, like the farmer's market in July. I'm not the only one who would like to see 4th or 5th floor walk-up apartments on top of cute shops, restaurants, and grocery stores. These places would be perfect for a young professor recently hired at one of our local universities, or a newly married couple starting a small business. To move to Fairport now means that unless you want a single-family detached house with high property and maintenance costs and a big time commitment, you're not welcome here. So just pass this defensive zoning code so that we can fix it and welcome them back. We've got to move on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha.
Nancy Shad, 18 Fifth Avenue.
Hi, Nancy.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Shad. I reside at 18 Fifth Avenue, and I was just thinking, I've been there a long time, and I don't know why, but I sold a beautiful condo to come and live in the village of Fairport. So I have quite an investment. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll make mine quite quick. I think the input from village residents has consistently focused on the charm of this historic village on the Erie Canal with its many well-maintained, charming homes in close-knit proximity to each other and the walkability to many excellent businesses. Shop local. There is an overarching character to this village that is key to preserve, which residents and the Village Historic Preservation Commission has pointed out in respect to some of the characters or some of the proposed zoning codes. Number one, this is contrary, the recommended building height should not exceed 3 stories in the downtown district. It just would change the character. Number two, allowances for recreational vehicles to be parked in driveways from November to April. I personally say absolutely not. My driveway is right on top of my neighbor's, as are most residential driveways, and many residents have shared driveways. Having a large RV parked in a driveway is so unsightly, it's frankly annoying, and totally out of character for this village. Owners of RVs can find, off-site parking and support a business. So the issue of ADUs is one of the codes that has received the most public outcry, with a variety of concerns, some favorable, some not. But I do feel that the ADUs is something that really needs to be better defined, better regulated, and perhaps limited to certain areas that do permit higher density. So I hope you will listen to the objections of my voice and to the other neighbors who have come. I respectfully submit this. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Nancy. I just wanted to make sure, because there were a couple people who got here late. Were you looking to speak? Okay. I just want to check in, and I think, because I hate to see people standing, if you want to grab a chair out of the conference room, please. Okay. I just wanted to check and make sure, because I didn't want you to have to stand for that. Okay. Megan, who's next, please?
Bob Campbell.
Hi, Bob. Welcome. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Bob Cantwell. I live at number 3 Fifth Ave in the village. I have submitted formal comments to the board. In advance of that, however, I would like to make a few comments that over the last couple of years, I've tried very hard to educate myself. My comments are most generally associated with the accessory dwelling units. So over the last couple of years, I've tried very hard to educate myself. I've attended a lot of the workshop meetings. Many times have been in front of you to raise questions about specifics as it relates to accessory dwelling units, how they're assessed, how they're approved, what standards in the code would be restrictive, what standards in the code would not only support what we want, but also what we don't want as it relates to accessory dwelling units. So that's kind of a precursor for my comments. My written comments to the village board, I am writing to express serious concerns regarding the proposed zoning code revision that would allow accessory dwelling units as a permitted use in all residential districts. That's throughout the entire village, which has changed from the time that the code was first drafted, where it was only in certain residential districts that we were considering accessory dwelling units. While I understand the desire to expand housing options, the current proposal lacks the most basic safeguards needed to protect the character and long-term stability of our neighborhoods. Our comprehensive plan, developed with extensive public input and at significant financial cost, clearly identified neighborhood character as a core value of our community. This zoning code, as written, contradicts that priority for the following reasons. Number one, assuming that accessory dwelling units would be included in some fashion within the code. Number one is a special use permit must be required. Allowing ADUs by right, as currently proposed and as simply requiring a building permit, eliminates any opportunity for residents or the appropriate board who might have approval authority or oversight to evaluate whether a proposed unit is appropriate for the specific context of the neighborhood. A special use permit process is essential to ensuring compatibility, transparency, and community involvement in the approval process. Without it, this change becomes a blanket upzoning of all residential districts in the village. Number two, owner occupancy must be mandatory. Either the primary dwelling or the accessory dwelling unit must be occupied by the property owner. Without this requirement, single-family homes can be effectively converted into multifamily rentals, inviting investor ownership and absentee landlords. Communities such as East Rochester and Brockport have already experienced the negative consequences of similar policies and are now trying to reverse course. We should learn from their experience rather than repeat their mistakes. Number three, there's no data has been provided to support the claimed housing demand. And quite frankly, what is the target, if you will, from the standpoint of the housing that we are proposing within the community, the diversity of housing. The village has referenced the concept of the missing middle, yet no local market demand study has been conducted to demonstrate an unmet need in our community. Moreover, there are, as I have commented to the board in the past, there are over 2,000 multifamily residential units immediately adjacent to the village on all four sides of the village in the town of Perrington, and that those are within walking distance as we like to promote being a walkable community. Before dramatically altering zoning, the village should provide objective demand data showing that such a change is necessary and is desired. Number four, aging in place does not require ADUs. Residents who wish to house aging parents or family members can already build home additions under the existing code. ADUs are not the only means of supporting multi-generational living, and their impact extends far beyond the original purpose once ownership of the property changes hands. Number 5, increased density will strain infrastructure. Under the existing code, any significant increase in dwelling units, particularly if investor-owned, will place additional strain on water and sewer capacity. Electric service, which we've had a comment this evening on that, recycling, refuse, emergency services, community policing, parking, and traffic congestion. These environmental impacts, going back to the gentleman that spoke earlier, these environmental impacts must be carefully evaluated prior to adopting any zoning changes. In conclusion, I respectfully urge the board to amend the proposed zoning code to include the following critical safeguards. As I had previously mentioned, number 1, require a special use permit for all ADUs. Number 2, require owner occupancy in either the main dwelling or the ADU. Number 3, relook at certain zoning districts where ADUs could be permitted and more appropriate than throughout the entire village. If these protections are not included, I ask the board to reject the current proposal and revise it to better reflect the values clearly expressed in our comprehensive plan and throughout the code update community engagement process. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration of these concerns. I trust the board will make a decision that reflects both responsible, smart growth planning and long-term vision of our village. Otherwise, as has been mentioned by some of the previous speakers, you will have communicated a message to real estate investors, landlords, and property managers that the Village of Fairport is in fact for sale. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Bob. Okay.
Margaret Frank, 44 Park Circle, and I believe there's 3 other proxy statements that are going to be read after.
Okay, if, is that the same thing as, Nimlin? I'm just looking at what our policy is with giving time over to other people, and I'm sure it's no big deal, but
But I was told that we could do proxy tonight.
Megan, that came from the email that you sent to Connie Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm actually going to be Tom Frank first. That's my husband. Tom Frank at 44 Park Circle Drive. This is to the village board, village planners, Jill Weidrich, and village manager Brian White. My name is Tom Frank, and I live at 44 Park Circle Drive in the village. I've been following the update of the draft code for the village of Fairport for the past 1 to 2 years. I have concerns about what has been being discussed in recent meetings concerning accessory dwelling units, ADUs. My understanding was that ADUs would be allowed in certain parts of the village, but not the entire village. I remember that in the public comments made after the original round 1 outreach, that most of the residents did not want ADUs in the village. I also recall that during a village board meeting that I attended, the board chose to limit where new ADUs could be built and that existing units, granny flats, would be grandfathered in. My understanding now is that recent language for ADUs has been changed, again, to be allowed in the entire village. Not only was I under the impression from feedback that a majority of residents do not want that, but such a situation would certainly not fit in the southeast section of the village that is a suburb nature. I understand that ADUs make sense for some family situations, but if you open up ADUs to be allowed in the entire village, that opens it up to become rental units. This adds load to the infrastructure and traffic. It can also substantially change the nature of a suburban village setting, which we bought it 2 years ago to raise our family. Fairport is a quaint suburban village with a mix of housing types, many historic. The southeast neighborhood, consisting of the streets listed below, is substantially newer, 1960s, and spread out a bit more than the historic older portions of the village, like many housing tracts in the town of Parrington. When you walk these streets, you would not at all equate it with a rental area, so why would you now allow or even promote that?
to have voted or agreed to carve it out in that meeting only to put it back in case it is being promoted or even forced upon us. This is the southeast neighborhood, Winding Brook, Misty Pine, Blue Spruce, Red Maple, Manor Hill, Park Circle, and a few attached small cul-de-sacs, White Alder Circle, Butternut, and Silver Birch. There may also be houses on Turk Hill and Route 250 that are of the same nature. A couple years ago, there was a proactive effort in this neighborhood to stop the village board from thinking about allowing development on the 3 green spaces embedded in this neighborhood. According to the Barrington historian, those spaces were required by the village government when the land was transferred from the town to the village for this housing development. Thank goodness the village recognized our request and determination and then complied by publicly agreeing to keep it green space. Before approving, please revert the draft back to what you agreed to in that meeting several months to at least exclude ADUs from the southeast suburban neighborhood listed above. The consultant and others had agreed that the character in this neighborhood is in fact characteristically different suburban within the village footprint. Now expanding the concept to the entire village, why do residents of Fairport need ADUs in a large swath of the village? There have been exceptions and variances based on past needs and pre-existing structures. I reject the premise that the code must be loosened to cover all pre-existing nonconformities to the code. I would think code could be written, as was discussed at a board meeting, to allow for variances, grandfather pre-existing, and gain special approvals on future ones where they are justified with code that provides guardrails on the exceptions. Think about how AI is rapidly changing the world. How do we do business and live? And we can't manage a list of exceptions to the code. Has there been enough commentary from the actual residents to determine in a transparent manner that there's a desire to current village citizens and property owners to build ADUs all across the village? This should not be influenced by forces outside the village that do not own here or live here or vote for our representation in local village offices. The same can be said of making Fairport a destination. We have a nice variety of shops, restaurants, bars, and other offerings, such as an exceptional library and farmers market. Can a few more nice places be created or constructed? Sure. Some buildings renovated? Definitely. But to say we should be a destination seems egotistical and a way to open up development that is not necessarily best for quality of life of the residents. The board and consultants have often referred to at least parts of the village as city-like. I thought it was more like a quaint village. If we want to live in a city, I know of one about 10 miles away where I used to live. Although I understand that we generally want services in the area and visitors and some good business comes with it, but destination seems beyond what our elected representatives should aim for. Anyone who drives into the village during peak times knows parking is already difficult in many areas. With more density from ADUs, apartments, and destination-type businesses comes more traffic strain on our infrastructure. The max height of buildings should hold into this discussion too. 3 to 4 stories in certain spots, okay. Add typical solar and panel structures on top, sure. Increasing to 5 stories, why push that? Is there an agenda like a backroom hotel deal in the works? Do certain developers want to build taller apartment buildings on smaller footprints? More density, more traffic, more need for parking, and probably more loss of quaint village character. My hope is that you reconsider allowing wholesale ADUs in the entire village, or at a minimum the southeast suburban neighborhood, as well as keep up the quality of life in our village, and limit the building height to 4 stories of reasonable overall height. Keep Portland weird and Fairport quaint. Joke. Thank you, Tom Frank.
Thank you.
My name is Margaret Frank and I live at 44 Park Circle Drive. My comments today, December 8th, are regarding the zoning code documents. On November 19th, 2025, a notice of legal notice was filed with the DNC in the legal notice section of the newspaper notifying citizens of Fairport of a public hearing on December 8th, 2025 to adopt the zoning code into law. In that notice, it instructed me to go to the clerk's office to review the code in person. I assume this is the legal version that the village posted for citizen review in preparation for this public hearing. I went to the clerk's office on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, and viewed the code in person as instructed in the legal notice. I tried to compare it to the version on the website, which was dated November 2025, and noticed the page numbers were different for the particular item I was reviewing. The date on that version in the clerk's office was July 8th on the title page. It was impossible to read the entire 229-page document in the office to determine if it matched at 100% to the website where all of the zoning code project content is stored. The file name of the website version was dated November 11, 2025, titled Final Draft November 2025. On Friday, December 5th at 2:38, I received an evergreen update notifying me of the board meeting on December 8th. Included in the agenda of 535 pages, there was another new version of the zoning code, now titled Final Draft December 2025. The website was also updated with the same file. I do not know if the version in the clerk's office has changed because I was only given one business day to view that version before this hearing. I do not think it's fair to expect me as a citizen to block time out of my only one business day to review the code in the office and compare the website version and the agenda version to the version in the clerk's office. On the website, there's a document titled Summary of Changes that does not refer to the changes from one version to another. Instead, it refers to the major changes from the current zoning to the new draft. Given the multiple versions of the code since last October, it does not allow for a meaningful public hearing when we still don't know which version you are voting on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have brought my water. Yes, thank you. The Fairport Village Parent Board of Trustees, Connie Murphy, 3 Manor Hill Drive, Fairport, New York, December 8, 2025. Subject, statement read by proxy, the December 8 public hearing on proposed local law number 3, zoning code update. I'm here to voice my deep concern regarding proposed zoning code update, which threatens the character and economic stability of Fairport Village. Furthermore, I must challenge the validity of this entire process based on serious procedural and ethical failures. Number 1, procedural failure, invalid hearing due to lack of meaningful access. The integrity of a zoning process under New York State law requires that the public must have been afforded a reasonable and meaningful opportunity to be heard. The village's actions have destroyed this opportunity. Pattern of obsolete documents. The public has been consistently reviewing outdated material leading up to this meeting. The file available at the clerk's office was dated July 8, 2025. The file posted on the village website was dated November 11, 2025, which was the document titled Final Draft November 2025. Last minute file swap on Friday at 2:38 after the legal notice had been posted with the Democrat and Chronicle November 19th, directing the public to the village's clerk's office to view the zoning code in person. It was identified there were multiple versions of the zoning code. The version in the clerk's office was different than the version posted on the website with the file dated November 11th, final draft, November 2025. On Friday, the website was updated with a new file titled December 2025. I would assume the legal copy of the clerk's office document was also simultaneously updated, making the final relevant code inaccessible until the beginning of the workday today. Impossibility of review. This is a 229-page document provided only one business day before this critical public hearing. The public cannot verify if the December 2025 draft is materially different because the board deliberately denied the time necessary to perform the required legal comparison. 2, document conflict of interest, trustee Ann Bonoski. This matter involves a clear, documented conflict that compromises the impartiality of the board's review and poses a severe risk of public harm. Timing of employment. Trustee Ann Bonoski began employment with Fisher and Associates, the firm writing the zoning code, in May 2025 during the period of the major and final code rewrite. Betrayal of public trust. The trustee only disclosed his employment to the public and his fellow board members on September 22nd, 2025 after my public comment was filed. Well, this public complaint prompted Trustee Bonoski to recuse himself from approving the firm's invoices. He has refused to formally recuse himself from all discussion or votes related to the code's adoption. I would like it placed on the public record that Trustee Bonoski's continued participation in this vote, despite his clear documented financial and professional ties to the firm responsible for the work, creates unacceptable potential for public harm. His actions demonstrate a profound failure to place the interests of the village above his own, thereby undermining the integrity and fairness of this entire zoning process. 3, extreme height limits 55 feet and architectural degradation. The proposed 55-foot height limit in the commercial Main Street area is an extreme 4-story plus deviation that threatens our historic character and is widely out of step with our neighboring communities. Major outlier, a comparison of local municipal downtown height restriction shows that 55 feet is an outlier and completely inconsistent with established village character preservation. The maximum allowed height is similar to traditional downtown or village center districts across local municipalities is typically 40 to 45 feet, 3 stories. Examples include Pittsford 40 feet, Penfield 45, Canandaigua 40, Central Business, Honeyway Falls 40 feet, and Geneva 40 feet. Even the most intense commercial zoning in the comparative data, heavy commercial in Canandaigua or general business intended for larger scale commercial activities in Honeyway Falls tops out at only 45 feet. Impact, our 55-foot proposal far exceeds these recognized limits, casting disproportionate shadows, creating a detrimental canyon effect on Main Street, and degrading the human scale character that supports our community's property values. 4, unfettered density ADUs and unregulated short-term rentals, the lack of control over density, unrestricted ADUs, and the complex absence of regulation for STRs will overwhelm our historic infrastructure, parking, utilities, commercialize our neighborhoods, degrading the quality of life and residential character that is essential for stable long-term property values. I respectfully assert that this body cannot move forward with a vote on December 22nd, 2025 based on today's flawed hearing. My specific request is postpone the December 22nd, 2025 vote and renotice the public hearing for a date that allows the public at least 10 business days to review the current final zoning code document. Formally require the immediate recusal of Trustee Ann Banowski from all further zoning code discussions and votes and initiate an independent review of the ethical conduct surrounding this code's preparation. Reject the proposed 55-foot limit and cap height at a maximum of 40 feet to align with regional standards for traditional downtown centers. Thank you for your attention to these critical matters of law, ethics, and community preservation. This one's short. This is from Al Barlato, 3 Manor Hill Drive. Comments for consideration by Fairport Village Board, December 8, 2025. As elected officials, the Board of Trustees have a fiduciary duty to serve the interests of the village residents. This proposed zoning code is an abrogation of this responsibility as evidenced by the following. The proposed zoning code allows for the development of accessory dwelling units in every residential district. This is not supported by the majority of residents as reflected in the citizen feedback provided during the public comment periods. It is also not supported by any policies in the comprehensive plan. The proposed zoning code allows 4-story buildings in the downtown district with heights up to 55 feet through the special permit process. The majority of residents providing feedback during the public comments clearly do not support more than 3-story buildings in the downtown district. The proposed building heights are also not supported by any policy in the comprehensive plan. The village's environmental assessment report submitted with the agenda answered no to the statements that the proposed code may impact the village's transportation system and energy supply. Most of the people who would be living in the ADUs permitted across the village by the new zoning code would have access to a vehicle. All of them would need to use municipally supplied electricity. The village has provided no data showing that the proposed code will not impact the village's transportation system or municipal energy supply as their environmental assessment report contends. Trustee Banowski has been employed by the Fisher & Associates, the firm hired by the village to author the code since May 2025. This is a clear conflict of interest. If Trustee Banowski places his duty to serve the residents of Fairport as his highest priority in this matter, then he should recuse himself from any vote of the proposed zoning code. It may not be illegal to do otherwise, but it is clearly unethical. If the village board is serious about representing the interests of the people they have been elected to serve, they should take the following actions. If ADUs are going to be permitted in the village, limit them to the residential transitional neighborhood district. Limit building heights in the downtown district to no more than 3 stories, and recuse Trustee Banowski from voting on the proposed zoning code. Alvarado.
All set? Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, you can take it. We don't need it back.
I need more. I did with my water left in the car. What I wore this tonight for Buffalo.
There we go. Okay, Megan.
Kate Myers Emery.
Hi, I appreciate you having this public commentary. I'm Kate Myers Emery, 19 South Ave. I have been a village resident for nearly 40 years, which is wild to say. I grew up on Dewey Avenue. My grandparents lived on South Main. My aunt and uncle lived on Miles. Another aunt and cousin are on Homestead. My childhood best friend lived on 5th and is now on Clifford, and I'm lucky enough to be on South Avenue. So it's very cool to have kind of my whole life in the world kind of all within Fairport. And I hope that my kids decide to stay here as well. What makes Fairport such a magical place to live isn't just the people and the culture. It's being part of a small historic village. It's that Gilmore Girls village vibe of being able to take a short, picturesque walk to anywhere that you want. It's coming over the South Main Street hill and seeing the church steeple popping out through the trees, and just like knowing that you're home, seeing the canal, seeing the lift bridge. But that character is fragile. It can be lost. When we let buildings be 4 stories tall, they steal focus away from that really cool historic landscape that we love. When my kids come to visit from college, what are they gonna see when they come over South Main? Is it still going to be the trees and the church steeple, or is it going to be massive apartment buildings that have gone up? When we let anyone have accessory dwelling units, the single family homes get bought out by investors and turned into apartments, and the streets become overrun with cars from all these, and instead of a quiet street where my kids can ride their bikes, it becomes a busy corridor. And as someone who lives on a street that already has apartments and Airbnbs, some ADUs, I can tell you that having this diverse mix of people and housing options is wonderful and fantastic, but we don't need unlimited growth of these. We already have these options, and we have ways to get more of those. And yes, we do need affordable housing. We do need a more diverse community, but Fairport is not going to fix what is a national housing crisis. And limiting new buildings to 3 stories is not going to slow progress. We've seen amazing things that have been done with repurposing old buildings. These types of changes that are being proposed will alter the feel of the village. It's going to block out views. It's going to change that historic nature. Please don't let your legacy as the leaders of our village be that you sacrificed our identity for density that is being veiled as progress. Let your legacy be that you listened to your community, and regardless of your own personal feelings, you made a decision to keep Fairport looking and feeling like that small historic village that we all love. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jenny Meyer, if you want to do yes.
Jenny Meyer. Mayor, sorry. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
It's good to see you again.
Thanks. Kind of a fan.
I'm just saying because I saw you at 8 o'clock this morning.
I know. Jenny Mayer, 51 Dewey Avenue. I'm here to speak in support of the zoning code revision. I really appreciate the immense amount of work it represents from the staff, the consultant, the village board, the volunteer land use boards, and this community. There's a reason that zoning codes don't change much. This was a huge undertaking, and I think the village should be proud of taking it on. And although I admit I did not read the hundreds of pages of code, I did review the narrative that's in today's agenda, which I assume Jill wrote, that connected the code revision to the comprehensive plan goals. I thought it was great to see the desires of the community as expressed in that document taken seriously, instead of the plan being put on a shelf or dismissed as unrealistic. As members of the board know, I am an advocate for climate action. While I expect that this code will be passed without any modifications, I would also like to challenge the board to consider ways that this document can help address some of the comprehensive plan strategies, like, quote, taking necessary actions to reduce fossil fuel emissions, and, quote, implementing smart growth practices. There are some simple options to do this. The one I would suggest is to allow more specially permitted uses in the residential neighborhoods.
If individual property owners had the means or desire to put a triplex townhome or cooperative housing on lots that currently only allow a single owner, the village could increase the number of homeowners and have the higher population needed to help us have better transit options and support more businesses in the village center. Right now, those kinds of uses are limited to the residential transitional neighborhood, which the summary says is 16% of the village. But these things are basically impossible in the majority of the village, which is 61% of the village's the other residential neighborhoods. I've heard members of the board describe this code as a compromise between two sides: residents who don't want much to change and residents who want big changes. But I would just like to argue that one side in this decision is actually not subject to any compromise, and that is the reality of physics, that the carbon dioxide trapped in our atmosphere is changing Earth's support systems in ways that make our current human civilization possible. We have to accept the reality that the way we have organized ourselves in the last 100 years or so is going to cause suffering for our children and our grandchildren. Sorry. Let's rise to the challenge this poses to us by working together to reduce our contribution to climate change. And that means imagining a different village that is built to help us reduce fossil fuel use. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie.
The last person I have is Michael Santarello.
I'd like to withdraw my name.
Okay, so that's it for live speakers, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have 3 letters to read into the record from individuals who emailed to Megan and myself their comments. The village board members all have copies of these at your seat. The first one I will read is from Andrew Rouse. Happy Monday, my name is Andrew Rouse. I reside at 155 West Avenue, Fairport, New York, and I am a former planning board member and chair for 21 years. It's just so that people understand that you can't be on the planning board if you don't live in the village of Fairport. So he's lived in the village of Fairport for at least 21 years. I want to thank the village for a comprehensive review and update of the zoning code. During my tenure on the planning board, we often dealt with conflicts between adopted plans and our antiquated codes. The new zoning code will certainly help elected and volunteer leaders of our community make better decisions consistent with the input from the community that informed the comprehensive plan and the zoning code. I am limiting my comments to a few considerations for the board as it weighs the adoption of the new zoning code. Number 1, accessory dwelling units. I do not believe ADUs should be an as of right or permitted use in any district. In all instances, ADUs should require a special permit. A special permit would provide a higher level of stringency and enforceability, especially if aligned with appropriate performance and design standards. I understand the rationale for only allowing ADUs within a primary structure. However, I do not agree with this approach. With appropriate and stringent performance and design standards coupled with a special permit, an ADU may be appropriate in a freestanding building. There are many exceptional examples of detached garages with a small apartment on the second floor for in-laws and families. The special use permit process can mandate design requirements to ensure for on-site parking, architectural consistency, lot setbacks, etc. are met and maintained. Number 2 is height restrictions in the business district. We dealt with this concern for many years and attempted to balance the realities of the market with antiquated codes. A new code addresses this concern well with the use of a special permit for 4 stories. I personally see no concern with buildings in our downtown core being 4 stories if contextually appropriate and complementary to the other adjacent structures. There are many design strategies to ensure appropriate scale and continuity. The greatest challenge the village will face is market realities driving scale. The cost of development, especially on a small footprint one-off project, is significant. The allowance of a 4th story can often be the difference between a project penciling out or not. Thank you for the opportunity to provide my comments. Andy. The next letter I have is from Matthew Brown, and you know what, Matt did not put his address. It's Nelson Street, and I'm not gonna get the 46 Nelson Street, okay. Dear Mayor, trustees, and village staff, I am writing to you regarding the proposed zoning code update. I am a 20-year resident of this village. The home I occupy is my wife and I have ever purchased. We intend to keep it as our home for as long as we possibly can. When we first moved to Fairport, I had just graduated residency and completed half a year as a chief resident and secured a job as an attending physician with the Unity Health System, now Rochester Regional. We have raised our 2 sons, now 20 and 17 here. This is the only home that they have ever known. It is very likely that when my wife and I age out of our home, we will hand it over to one of them. I give you the above background because, quite frankly, I would think that the family of a young physician would be one that would easily sell to a community. However, given the current housing market, if I were graduating from residency today, I would be unable to afford any of the homes in our village at their current pricing, and the number of smaller homes, multifamily homes, and rentals is not a particularly large one. Simply put, the decisions we make about our housing stock are locking people out of Fairport to an alarming degree. I am encouraged that accessory dwelling units are being included in this zoning code update, and I am hopeful that when this code is approved, that those citizens of the village who have been opposed to them will see that they are not only to not be feared, but a necessary inclusion in our village to inject the lifeblood of new neighbors who do not need an entire house's worth of space, but are still worthy of taking part in all the benefits of living in Fairport. I hope that future zoning codes will see the loosening of proposed restrictions on accessory dwelling units, allowing greater variety of size, as well as detached ADUs to be permitted within our village. Thank you for the inclusion of both attainable housing and residential conversion for multifamily housing. These represent significant steps in improving the diversity of our village's housing stock, allowing people of a variety of income levels access to homes within Fairport. I hope to see further steps in this direction in the future. I am in favor of the proposed code update and hope that this will be approved by our village board. Thank you all for your work and endeavor. The last item I have is Rob Genthner. He didn't include, I know he lives on Potter.
It's at the bottom.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Rob Genthner, 20 Potter Place. To whom it may concern, I am unable to attend this evening's zoning code update discussion. However, I wish to extend my support for the character-based zoning code update. As a longtime resident of the village, I appreciate a very thoughtful approach to complicated topics like zoning. I believe the village's process to review and update our zoning code has been a thorough one, taking into account a wide variety of perspectives and goals. Our Fairport community is a desirable place to live and work for a multitude of reasons. Some of these reasons include our walkability, our schools, our sense of pride in this little canal village, and the way so many people get involved in volunteer time with their neighbors to bring a life full of calendar events throughout the year. Because this community is a desirable destination, we are faced with interesting challenges, including how to best ensure a wide variety of housing options are available and attainable for anyone who chooses to live, work, and add to this special place. I believe this code update, and specifically the accessory dwelling unit component, is a valuable tool to enhance and diversify our housing inventory without significant disruption to the streets and neighborhoods we each call home. The ADU update will provide more housing options for those that wish to stay in the village but no longer choose to and are unable to maintain a single-family home in the village. Additionally, ADUs present a residential option for those who may not be able to afford a single-family home but still wish to live close to where they work or wish to have their children attend our great schools, even if a single-family home mortgage does not fit their budget. Regulations associated with these ADUs and the CBC character-based code updates will ensure that the positive impact of additional housing that they create does not harm the village charm or property value we appreciate currently. Ensuring our village is an inclusive community for all is an important priority. I support this code update as a resource to support that initiative. My best, Rep. Genthner. And that's all I have. I'll put out the call. Is there anybody who did not make it to the list who wanted to speak? Okay, going. So with that said, the public hearing will close at 7:49 p.m. Thank you to everybody who either submitted documents, took the time out of your schedules to be here tonight. We really appreciate hearing from each and every one of you. And it's great feedback for all of us. I appreciate it. And I know the rest of the board does too. Thank you. All right, so that will take us to unfinished business. Sure. If there's anybody who wanted to leave, you're welcome to leave.
Enjoy the holidays, be safe, be warm, thank you for coming.
Actually, I promised to ask Jill or John if there was anything that they needed to share before we moved on with the rest of the meeting. Are you good for tonight, Jill? Okay. John, are you good for tonight? I would, actually. I would like you to address that because it's on the record for tonight.
At the mayor's request, I just wanted to address the issue of the conflict of interest regarding Trustee Benoski. I can wait a minute too.
Yeah, just wait just one moment. Hey Mike, could you do me a favor? Can you don't have to close both doors, just close one door. And that will help a little with the sound. There we go. Okay. John, would you please address that?
Yeah, no problem at all, Mayor. As the board is aware, consistent with a few of the public comments tonight, there have been other comments provided throughout this process regarding Trustee Benoski and the perception of a conflict of interest regarding his employment with Fisher Associates. To provide the board and the public some background into that, the law concerning conflicts of interest governed by two areas of law. So you have Article 18 of the New York General Municipal Law. That's a statute that New York State has adopted regarding financial conflicts of interest mostly. And then you have common law, which is created by the court system regarding conflicts of interest, and then opinions of the New York State Comptroller and the Attorney General's office. So all of those areas of law collectively are what we look to determine whether or not a conflict of interest exists under New York law. And if so, what the appropriate course of action is with respect to that. So when this issue came up, it was reviewed. As I understand the facts, some of which have been stated tonight, December 2023 was when the village entered into the contract with Fisher Associates to provide professional services for the village regarding the zoning code update. So a year and a half later, May of 2025, at that point, the contract was still open, but for the most part, the work of Fisher Associates was nearing its completion by that stage of time. Trustee Benoski became employed by Fisher Associates. My understanding is that his compensation with Fisher Associates is one of a salaried position. It's not dependent upon the contract of the village itself. He's not an equity owner. He doesn't gain compensation from Fisher Associates by virtue of his position there or the contract with the village. And his work at that firm is in a separate department entirely unrelated to the services that other members of Fisher Associates were providing to the village. So at the time this came up originally, he did consult the village attorney's office. My understanding he's also consulted independently a professional association that regulates or governs his professional licensing. And collectively, the determination was made, and Trustee Benoski, I believe, placed on the record at some point in the I think it was early fall, if I'm not mistaken, that based on reviewing the facts, reviewing the applicable law in the area, it was determined that he does not have a conflict of interest, and he does not need to recuse himself from deliberating or voting with respect to the amendments to the zoning code. So he did seek guidance on that, and it was provided. I can't go into the specifics in an open meeting because that is a privileged document that I provided each member of the trustees at the time. But I am obviously happy to provide further information and guidance as appropriate to the board and answer any questions that they have privately. And to the extent necessary, obviously I can address anything in follow-up.
I think the only guidance that was issued that was appropriate for meetings was that if there was any kind of an invoice, because Trustee Banoski reviews the invoices along with Trustee Wojka, that if there was anything that had anything to do with Fisher Associates, he would not review that and he would ask someone else to step in his place. And that is why whenever we do voucher review, I specifically asked, were there any vouchers from Fisher Associates in the vouchers that they reviewed?
That is correct. Thank you for that clarification.
John, can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So when we talk about conflict of interest, we talk about an actual conflict of interest, but also a perceived conflict of interest. Could you speak about those two pieces?
Yes.
Because, yes, okay.
So actual conflict of interest, I believe you're referring to the definitions of pecuniary conflicts that are defined by our local code of ethics and the general municipal law, and then the perceived conflicts of interest are the appearance of impropriety and bias. Both of those doctrines were evaluated and provided to Trustee Banoski, and based on the facts that were provided from him, the conclusion was made that neither of those doctrines were violated in conjunction with his position at Fisher Associates. There are aspects of that analysis that I would recommend not be discussed publicly at this point, because again, it is Trustee Banoski's position. A lot of this was provided to him confidentially and privileged, and by extension, some of the other members of the board as well when this issue first came up. So before discussing it publicly, to the extent that this board wishes to make anything public, I would prefer to do this in an attorney-client session to discuss the scope of any public disclosure before doing that, especially without Trustee Banoski's presence. I think you deserve to be a part of that conversation.
Does that satisfy your question?
Yeah, I think you're saying that there wasn't any actual conflict of interest on a legal level, but also a perception level.
Yes, well, both of them on a legal level. Even the common law conflict of interest analysis regarding the appearance of impropriety and bias and how that term has been interpreted by the courts is as much of a legal conflict of interest as would be a financial one if triggered. The analysis and the conclusion based on the facts was that it did not give rise to sufficient conflict that would necessitate his recusal.
I just want to piggyback on what Emily had brought up. In January, we took an ethics training, and I think some people were also here. And it specifically dealt with conflict of interest. And throughout that, if you said once, John, you said 100 times. If there is the perception that the public has or believes you have a conflict of interest, and you gave lots and lots of examples, and you said there is the legal, but there's also the perception of the public if they believe you have a conflict of interest, then the best thing to do for the village would be to walk away and to just accuse yourself. I mean, as I said, you said it lots and lots of times and gave lots of examples. It's like, you might be legally within all your rights, but if the perception in our residents is out there that you have this conflict, just do the right thing. I mean, that was the nugget I walked away with. And it was really brought home, and I reflected on, things I do in the community since I live here, and I'm representing, it puts you in a different position, and that's really guided some of the things that, my actions and what I've done, because you don't want to have that perception. So I guess I'm piggybacking on what Emily, who was also at that training, it's like, it was the perception of, but you just said the perception is still also a legal thing.
Yes. So the doctrine itself is one of legal import. If there is a conflict of interest that gives rise to recusal, then yes. I mean, as a legal proposition, the courts and the Attorney General will tell you that you should recuse yourself. I understand what you're saying. I'm happy to have a more pointed, specific discussion on this topic in this particular context. I don't believe that context came up in the discussion we had during that training, but I understand exactly what you are saying, and those are words that I have utilized to discuss the common law conflicts of interest with respect to the standards under New York law. There are many nuances to those standards, depending on the context, depending on the type of officer. Again, I want to be careful. Trustee Banoski is not here, and I think he deserves the right to have this conversation since it does involve him. And I also, again, respecting attorney-client privilege, I would prefer not to have this debate in public. I'm happy to have a discussion privately, and then obviously to the extent this board collectively determines that disclosures are necessary in public, we can frame something that is appropriate at a future meeting.
So I think we're at the point where if you want to continue with this discussion, Trustee Briggs, we should take it offline outside of this meeting. And thank you for giving the feedback on the conflict of interest situation.
No problem.
Okay. With that, I think we're going to continue on our agenda for this evening. So that would be taking us to unfinished business. Can I have a motion by the village board to approve the meeting minutes of November 10th, 2025 village board meeting?
So moved.
By Trustee Warta.
Second.
By Trustee Mishler. Any questions or comments about those meeting minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That'll be unanimous. Item number 2 is a motion by the village board to approve the meeting minutes of November 18th, 2025 village board work session. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Warta.
Second.
By Trustee Briggs. Any questions or comments regarding those meeting minutes?
This was the planning session, correct?
Yes.
I have to abstain.
So,
from
yeah,
this.
you need to abstain. Okay, so that would give us 3 votes, which is enough to approve it. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
Abstention.
Okay. That will take us to new business, which is a motion by the Village of Fairport to appoint Heather Williams to the Fairport Office of Community and Economic Development, the OSED board.
So moved.
By Trustee Mishler.
Second.
By Trustee Briggs. Any questions or comments? Heather is currently on the planning board and she will be, has she resigned yet? She will be resigning. And she will be moving over to OSED to sit on their board of directors, which I'm thrilled and excited to have her take on that role.
That's great. Thank you, Heather.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous. Item number 2 is a motion to introduce local law number 4 of 2025 to amend/repeal certain chapters of the Code of the Village of Fairport and to set the public hearing for the proposed local law number 4 of 2025 on December 22nd, 2025 at 6 p.m.
So moved.
By Trustee Briggs.
Second.
By Trustee Warta. Any questions or comments?
Should we determine how we're moving forward with local law 3 before we do this?
No.
Say that again, I didn't hear you.
I was just thinking maybe we should determine how we're moving forward with local law 3 before we move forward with local law 4.
What's your guidance, John?
So you have a couple options.
Okay, thanks for explaining this.
If this board determines that further deliberations or edits or modifications to local law number 3 is necessary, i.e. there are changes that you wish to make to the code, then we will need to amend the code and then re-notice the public hearing for local law number 3. That will take us into January or beyond for that portion, which means I would recommend you table local law number 4 if you think you're going to make more edits to local law number 3. Because that way we can reconcile the two together. You don't want to have inconsistencies in the two. If you wish to move forward with local law number 3 as proposed for December, is it 22nd? And you anticipate deliberating and potentially adopting that night, I would recommend introducing local law number 4 for public hearing. That way there isn't a large gap between potentially the two adoptions, because you don't want to have inconsistent laws on the books when your new code has been adopted. So really, how you wish to proceed on local law number 3 and the timing of that should dictate when you want to introduce local law number 4.
So just a thought is that we heard an hour and a half of public comment this evening with over almost 20 people commenting. It seems that it would be reasonable, and one of our board members is not present for the public hearing.
He's listening to it.
There were a lot of comments that it would be nice to deliberate with the board on. There were nuances that were added. I make a motion that we table local law 4.
Okay. So moved.
Well, you actually probably don't need to do anything.
Oh.
Since it's not been, there's been no motion to have it introduced. So if you don't want to introduce it or set the public hearing, you can simply just not act on the item at all.
That's where I would feel comfortable.
You can't table it unless you lift it off the floor.
Right, so it hasn't been put on the floor yet, so there'd be nothing to do. You'll simply, so if the idea is you're going to continue to deliberate on local law number 3, which is the zoning code update, then you should just not take action on this agenda item for local law number 4.
So, we had a motion and a second on this. Do we have to
make the motion to table it and then get a second?
Yeah, no.
So I have Briggs and Wicca as the motion and the second on that.
To introduce it.
To introduce
so I think you're gonna, I mean, it's on the floor now for voting, so I think you're gonna vote to not adopt, to not introduce it. Or I guess you could withdraw, I mean, Brian, under the Robert's rules, can we withdraw
Yeah, they can
it?
they can do a lot of things. So they've lifted it from the floor for discussion and for a potential vote, should they choose to do so. And it needed that motion second to even gain traction and discussion or action by the legislative body, which you've done.
Right.
Right? So now what's gonna happen is you can either take a vote on it, or you can make a motion to table it if you'd like to do that.
Right, and I made a motion
Because it's
to
already
table
been
it.
introduced and it's been up there now, there's some action that I think needs to be taken, because you've done
Yeah.
that. If you did take that action to introduce it second for question and commentary,
yeah,
then as Village Attorney Mancuso alluded to, you can just ignore that and move on from that and just kind of leave it sitting there. But because now it's been introduced on the floor for deliberation,
take a vote.
it requires some action.
And then post-vote, someone could introduce it to table it? Take a vote and then table it, or?
So if you can either, if you vote on it, there's nothing to table because you voted on it, took action on it, right?
Okay.
So either as a body, you need to determine whether you'd like to vote on that, on this motion, or if it's something where you want it to sit out there for a while so you can have further deliberation and communication amongst the board, somebody can make a motion to table.
Which she just did.
And if she gets a second, then
And
it's required
Tracy
to
just
go to a
seconded.
vote. Then there you go, then
Okay.
you must
Okay.
vote on it.
I agree, Brian.
Yep.
Pepper.
Okay. All right, so we are voting on
Tabling.
the motion to table the local law. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So since the quorum is not full with 3 to 2, it gets tabled because
Yeah, that's a non-action, so that
It's-
vote, nothing carried.
And can I just say that it's out of respect for, I think that the hour and a half of deliberation we had this evening, I just think it's to honor all of those who came and spoke at our public hearing, that we, as a board,
We'll think about it.
let all of those comments sit and settle, and we marinate on those a little bit. Go for it.
so
Just a
Let's
question
understand-
before we- I just
let's
wanna make sure we're
understand
correct. Because it's introduced and second, it's on the floor for a vote or legislative action. The body requested a motion and a second to table, which was just voted on. It was a 2-2 vote, as that motion fails. The actual motion itself is still on the table for action. I think the board has to now take action
Can
on
they-
the motion.
all right, so I'm willing to switch my vote and
2-2 means
table it.
it didn't happen, there's no approval to table.
Right, if you reintroduce the tabling and pass it, then it will be tabled.
That's
Correct.
fine.
But right now, because it's been introduced, unless you do something else and make another motion to table, you have to take a vote on this action.
Trustee Michelin, make another motion to table it.
I make a motion to table local law number 4.
Can I have a second?
So moved.
By Trustee Briggs. All in favor of tabling it? Aye. Anybody opposed to tabling it?
Aye.
3-1, so that does carry.
Okay, so it's now tabled.
Yeah, local law number 4 is tabled, no public hearing will be scheduled for December 22nd, so presumably the board will continue its deliberations and discussions on the
On
zoning
local law
code.
3.
Correct,
Which we heard a public hearing on this evening for an hour and a half.
correct.
Sure.
And that's my point, that I believe that out of respect for our residents, that we need to let that settle.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there is no public hearing scheduled for local law number 4 on December 22nd. That will move us to item number 3, which is a motion by the village board to accept the November 2025 financial statements for the village of Fairport and the October 2025 financial statements for the Fairport Municipal Commission. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Jinx. Trustee Wojtka.
That's definitely a tie.
Commissioner is the second. And any questions or comments about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous. Item number 4, okay, so you all received a note from Trustee Banoski this afternoon that he approved the vouchers. And so normally he would be the second on the motion to approve vouchers, but since he's not here, Trustee Wojtka will make, she will make the motion because she's here and she's approved them. And then you can duke it out at this end here over who wants to second it, but they have been reviewed by 2 individuals. So, can I have a motion for the village board to authorize payment of the audited bills?
I reviewed the monthly bills and found everything to be in order.
Can I have a second,
I second
please?
that.
Trustee Mishler, or so Wojtka,
Thanks.
Mishler, and discussion. Do you have a composting number?
I do, I always have the composting number. We were 2.2 tons, we were down a little bit from the month prior, but
That's because everybody had those pumpkins the month prior.
that is my guess as well, is that it was all pumpkin related and everyone has eaten all of their Thanksgiving leftovers at this point. But
So for anybody who's here who is not aware of this, the village offers free composting to village residents. You can take your buckets to either the DPW at Railroad Street or the toters at Potter Park, and it is free and available for food scraps, and there's more information on our website underneath the DPW site for composting, but it is something that we offer, and in the monthly bills it shows up every month how much has been composted, so that's a great number to know. All right, with all that said, all in favor of approving the vouchers? Aye. Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous as well. Item number 5 is a motion by the village board to amend the previously approved amount of $60,000 to pay health and dental insurance premiums paid in the month of December to $54,610.27. Can I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Mishler? Second. Briggs? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous. Item number 6 is a motion by the village board to authorize the clerk treasurer to pay health and dental insurance premiums for the month of January in an initial estimated amount not to exceed $60,000, subject to audit and amending authorization by the village board at their regularly scheduled January meeting.
So moved.
By trustee Mishler.
Second.
By trustee Wojtka. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That'll be unanimous. Item number 7 is a motion by the village board to enter into an executive session. Do you want me to move that down, Brian? There's an executive session here.
So, yeah, you want to leave that where it is. We're going to go into executive session just in case you have any questions on the real estate transaction for
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we had it in the right order. Item number 7 is a motion by the village board to enter executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property.
So moved.
By trustee Mishler.
Second.
By trustee Briggs. All in favor?
Aye.
So for anyone who's still here, we will go enter executive session in the conference room. When we come back, normally I say here that the meeting is over. It is not over. We will take a short break and then come back and finish the remaining items on the agenda. So if you would like to stay, please, we'll be back. If you want to go home, we'll be back online in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Go home and be well. Yes, her son.
So we gotta stay, what we do is we let it sit, nothing while they're gone, or? Huh? Cause it.
Thank you.
I mean, how much of the stuff do you need tonight? Any of the stuff? We call this a successful passage. And then, I'd say next time that they do that, we'll have a screen that says an executive session. And then.
Okay, I hope I see you in Wegmans soon.
Yeah, there you go. Play music. Oh, that's some fun music. So I'm gonna go to my little.
I know we're eventually, yeah, it's a lot of ways. Good to meet you. Adam probably either has to go out, that two makes it not mass. But without her, you read a novel. Joe.
I needed water, I forgot it, so that Emily had.
Oh, that was cool.
I read 4
that,
of them.
that and the pumpkin line was really good.
And my husband had to put that children at the end.